right, good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast. Welcome to This Week in Pop Culture, the show in which we give you the goings on in the past, say, a week in the world of pop culture, whether we're talking about local news, film and TV news, streaming news, sports news, tech news, what have you. We try to bring you up to speed so that way you are not left in the wind. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And as always, every single week, I am not going to be alone in talking about the said topics that we will be diving into this week. So without further ado, I want to welcome my co-host, Mr. Spillman Trueheart, aka Spills. What's going on, sir?
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I got snowed in last week. The snow got me. I was stuck. I was building an igloo and fighting a polar bear. Y'all don't know the polar bears live in the DC area, but they apparently came to my house. So I apologize for being absent last week.
And you know what? I'm gonna call myself out. This may cope on me as well. We were having some tech issues as well, so part of that was on me as well. So I want to, put that out there also. But good to have you back, sir. There was a lot that went down this past week, and chief of which being Farpoint Con, which I know many of you, had an opportunity to see some of the interviews that were done, whether it was with some of the guests that we had, whether they are, media guests, cosplay guests, what have you. So you can enjoy that already, which we already have in the live archive. So, but we're going to dive into a wrap up of that show because today is the last day for that said show. But before we do that, we had a couple of other things that went down this week, Spills. Just to give kind of like a quick recap, we lost some legends, we had some sports news, and we had some streaming news. So without further ado, shall we dive in?
Yes, let's get it.
All right, perfect. So, with that, I'll say this, folks, is that before I dive into the stories, I'll just give the reminder that we will do our due diligence here once the show has already aired to give you guys a timestamp of the stories that we have, so that way you can fast forward or rewind to your heart's content of whichever stories you may want to, jump forward to or go back to. You'll be able to do without having to go through the entire video. So be on the lookout for that. But with that being said, we're going to get into the first story that we have today. And as I said, we had the loss of a couple of legends this past said week. So let's jump into that. We're going to start first with this segment that we have known as Legacies Remembered, starting first on Friday, as it was reported by TMZ that Home Alone and Beetlejuice star Catherine O'Hara had passed, known for her roles also in Schitt's Creek as well as The Nightmare Before Christmas. The actress passed at the age of 71, following what was described as a brief illness. Meanwhile, yesterday, it was also reported by TMZ that Sanford and Son star Damon Wilson had passed as well, confirmed to the outlet by the actor's son. The actor died a Friday morning at his home in Palm Springs, California, following complications from cancer. He was 79. So, Spills, your thoughts on these two passings that we had this week?
I feel like these two Hollywood greats are really foundational people to our childhood. I feel like, I don't know about you, but I watched a lot of Sanford and Son in the house with my pops. We would watch that a lot. I felt like I was Lamont, even though I was like a younger kid when I first started watching it. But as I got older, definitely feeling like you're in the house with your crazy old dad and trying to get him to get with the times. I definitely feel that, even though he had an afro and it was the 70s, we really saw that. The loss of Catherine O'Hara also is, tragic. So many things she was great in. She's great in a lot of the she was great obviously in Home Alone. She was great in um Beetlejuice. Um I think she was in a lot of those those mockumentary movies. Wasn't she in a lot of those mockumentary movies with
Yeah. Also, and if memory serves, Best in Show.
Best in Show? Yeah, she was great in Best in Show.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, man.
was her character like the lady that like knew everybody?
Yeah,
Like her
man.
husband.
And I'm glad. I was gonna say, I'm glad you brought that up because when we're talking about Catherine O'Hara, there are very few actors that we have out there that define more than one generation. You have Beetlejuice. Don't get me wrong. Like I love the film Beetlejuice, but for me, and I'm going to age myself when it comes to Beetlejuice, and I think you can say the same. Spills is Beetlejuice for me has a different connotation than it did for other people. For me, Beetlejuice was the cartoon, right? Because that
Yeah.
what was around when I was coming up. At that point, the movie had already come out, and I remember this vividly. The film was going to come on TV on one occasion, and I remember a lot of times they'll make the announcement coming up next, Beetlejuice. I was like, wait, what? Like Beetlejuice? Like for real? Like a live action Beetlejuice? And I remember like getting super excited and running down the stairs and telling my mom like, "Hey, like they're doing they have a live action Beetlejuice." She was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, that came out." I was like, "But we had the cartoon." She's like, "Oh no, the cartoon came later. Like, yeah, the movie
Yeah.
came out first."
Said, no,
So
you silly child.
right, right, the movie came out first, nearly a decade before. So uh, as much and don't get me like I said, don't get me wrong, I love the movie, but for me, in talking about my generation, it was the cartoon in my head that came first for me. But I enjoy the movie. The movie is iconic, um, and in terms of what is synonymous with me speaking to my age would be Home Alone. Like that was my first introduction to Catherine O'Hara, was as the mom in Home Alone. So and then even for a new generation now, as I said, I just mentioned Schitt's Creek. That's a series that many people enjoy. But even
Hmm.
outside of Home Alone, we have Nightmare Before Christmas, another thing
Yep.
that was a part of my, I'm sure a part of your childhood as well. We're roughly the same age, so yeah, like to have someone who has been able to have that longevity in their career and to be able to cement themselves in different points in time for different folks in terms of her body of work. That's a rare thing to come across, and is awesome to be able to say across the board. Now, and speaking of Wilson, as you said, I did watch Sanford and Son. It was before my time, but even though it was before my time, it was in syndication a lot. So, I had an opportunity to go back and watch a lot of those episodes. And again, another iconic show, a timeless show where it doesn't matter what point in time, you're in, there are things that are just universal about that show that still carry over. And don't get me wrong, that you have some things with some shows where they do have things that are of their time. I mean, one series that I can think of that I love the show, but it is very 90s, is Martin. Like I love that sitcom, but there are some things in it is like very 90s, which is great. You want to be able to jump back in that point of time and think back to that decade, just as we're doing now. When we're talking about Catherine O'Hara and Home Alone. So condolences in both regards with these said icons, whether it's Wilson or O'Hara. Any last thoughts, before we move on?
I just want to say, these are great actors, and condolences to their families and their friends. If you can, check some of their work.
Please.
Obviously, we talk about Catherine O'Hara, how influential she is. Left My Wallet in El Segundo. We would not have that song without Sanford and Son. There's so many other references to Sanford and Son that just transcend everything. And he's with Elizabeth and everybody else. So we're happy that he had lived a great life, and he passed his Palm Springs, so he kept his money right from the '70s. You don't get to live in Palm Springs usually if you didn't keep your money right. So
But
congratulations to him.
I will say this. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Is 70s this day and age is still still relatively, premature in terms of thinking of the technology that we have. So again,
Yeah.
condolences. Unfortunate, but in terms of their body of work, in both regards, incredible bodies of work for both artists. So we're gonna switch gears and get into our next story and talking about a little bit of sports, getting into some lighter news with our sports cooler talk. And I'm sure one of these spills will be interested in diving into, but the other dealing with an up and comer, if you will, that has been taking the league by storm. So let me bring that up now. I'm talking about LBJ and then also talking about Cooper Flag. So here on our Sports Cooler Talk, there were a number of stories that went down on Wednesday. The Cavaliers rolled out the red carpet for the return of LeBron James as well as Bronny James to their arena. Though the Cavs would convincingly win that game, the sentiment was not lost on James in returning to the arena, who was emotional to open the game as the organization had a tribute video, ready to play prior to the game. James was also emotional as his mother was on hand there to see both him and his son play at that arena. Meanwhile, history would be made by Cooper Flag on Thursday as he would score 49 points against the Charlotte Hornets. Though it still resulted in a loss thanks to his former teammate with the Duke Blue Devils, Canuple's 36 points on the opposing team. It marked the second time the 19-year-old scored 40 plus points as a rookie, beating, by the way, LeBron's record by one game. So, Spills, your thoughts on the perceived GOAT and the rookie phenom?
Well, I think that Bronny is the perceived GOAT because he's the heir apparent to the GOAT, LeBron
I see what you did. I see
James.
what you did there. Very nice,
He's the
very
he's the
nice.
he's the once and future king. That's what they
Okay,
call him. Yeah,
okay,
that's right. He's
okay.
Aragon. That's gonna be his nickname. He's Aragon. That's Bronny nickname. I said it today, ladies and gentlemen. Bronny nickname is Aragon. So no, it's touching to see that. I wonder, that if the Cavs are doing tributes to LeBron now, does that mean this is actually his last year and he's just going to let us know at the end of the year that yeah, that was it? I don't think so. I think that he might come back for one more year since he could probably take a little bit less money and come back. That'd be interesting if he does take a little bit less money to come back. But at this point in his career, he's still doing amazing things. You see this, ladies and gentlemen. Also, he highlighted that they lost to the Cavs, but he didn't show that they came and beat the Wizards by 30, and he had a
Wizards
whole
ain't
bunch
my
of
team.
dunks
I
and
don't care.
stuff.
I don't care
Oh, he
about no
don't.
Wizards.
The Cavs ain't your team either. You just wanted to have a loss on here to talk
I
about.
did. I ain't gonna
Let's be
lie.
for real, ladies and gentlemen. You see how I try to. You see that? That's manipulation, ladies and gentlemen. That's how you manipulate like a good big dog. You just say, That's not my team. I don't care." Like we not these are the Cavs, but the Lakers are doing great. I know he probably talked about this last week, but the Warriors lost Jimmy Butler, which is sad, but they may
They
have
did
a chance at the
at the Greek Freak.
the Giannis sweepstakes. We might trade LeBron for Giannis. I think that they might do that. That might be interesting. Um, I doubt that will happen, but
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
I don't see it happening either. But we don't know. The Lakers be in the mix. We got Luca, strangely, when nobody knew he was on the market. So don't count us out, ladies and gentlemen. But that's all I have to say about LeBron. He is the GOAT. You know, he scored a whole bunch of points on the Wizards as an old man. Michael couldn't do that. Michael wasn't doing it like LeBron doing it right now. Didn't nobody want to come and play with Michael. Michael was an ornery old man. Ornery. But that's a different topic for a different day. Moving on to Cooper Cup. I think that Cooper Cup has proven himself as the goods. I saw Jamal Mashburn was talking about Cooper Cup, saying that he is not better than the kids that are in college now. When Cooper Cup is the same age as them boys that's in college. Cooper Cup said, I'm gonna go to college early so I can get this NBA money. and he reclassified to a year before, took a GED, got out of school, and is dominating in the NBA. So I'm sorry to say, but Jamal Mashburn doesn't sound like he's thinking with his whole brain. Cooper Cup is the goods. I was concerned about his ability to do this at this level, but I don't have the concerns any longer. He's clearly the goods. They've been saying he's the goods forever. So congratulations to him. How do you feel about Cooper Cup and the goat and his son returning? The goat and Aragon returning to Cleveland.
Well, I'll start this, and I don't think he feels that I will be objective about this when we're talking about LeBron James. As you know, I joke about LeBron James a lot, but again, as I've mentioned many times before, I still have him as my number two all the time, and that is a big deal considering all the other greats that we've had. Whether we're talking about Shaquille O'Neal, whether we're talking about Magic, whether we're talking about even Steph Curry. Steph Curry's my guy, but I have to give props to the overall resume. So I mean, I still have him at LeBron at my number two. So keep that in mind. And also, I will also say this: when we're talking about players, and I know they had an interesting statistic when they were talking about players that were 40 plus in terms of their points per game average, where he is still having a incredible year considering his age. So again, number two all the time for me. But I do find it interesting in terms of what we may see in terms of the player movement. I don't see LeBron staying in Lakers land. I don't foresee him being willing to take a pay cut for the very reason of all the things that I just talked about in terms of what he's been able to accomplish, what he's still accomplishing right now. It'd be one thing to say that, oh, I'm scoring 10 points a game, I'm scoring 5 points a game, and I'm willing to take a pay cut because I'm on, the downslide. But he still is an effective player, and I don't see him being willing to put in the same effort and get paid a substantial amount less, even if it meant for him to get a title. So I actually see this as kind of a preview. I feel like this is almost like a situation where you have a suitor there trying to attract back, their former flame, so to speak. So I do see him going back to the Cavs to wrap up. And I mean, it's a nice what is it bow ending, if you will. Even if they don't win another title, it would be nice for him to wrap up his career back in Ohio. You may disagree with me, but I feel like in the Eastern Conference, with the pieces that they already have on the Cavaliers, I feel like he would be able to add more to that and to put them in contention to be able to come out of the East among all the other teams that are there. I mean, we have the New York Knicks there, of course, but the New York Knicks have been kind of inconsistent as of late. I mean, you have the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics are playing way better, mind you, than people anticipated they would, even with Jason Tatum out. But they still need Jason Tatum to get themselves to the promised land. So while they are still playing well, I don't feel like they are a threat as of now. So those are the only two teams that I can honestly think of that would be a challenge against the Cavaliers. And I mean, I know a lot of people are going to say the Pistons, but when we're talking about the Pistons are having an outstanding year. Don't get me wrong, but they still have to show me what they can do in the postseason. And the other two teams that I've named have demonstrated already success in the postseason. They're having a breakout year in the regular season, but we've seen time and time again where we have teams that do well in the regular season or have a breakout season, but they fall apart when it comes time to play a half court game and to really, dig into the trenches and fight for those wins in a given series. Playing in a series, in an intense series against one team looks far different than playing a different team every night. So that's where I stand on that. I do believe that this will be his last year. I do believe LeBron will be back with the Cavaliers. It gives him a chance to be able to compete
A
for.
third time with the Cavaliers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't see that, man. I really like. I think it's nice that they had that tribute to him. Um, I just don't know. I
Because look, I was going to say, look at it this way. I know where your hesitancy is coming from because he has investments in LA, whether it's in terms of property, whether it's in terms of businesses. When we're talking about people that are making the type of incomes that they're making, it's not going to be a big deal to have a year in Ohio just for one additional season and then retire and head
But
back to
I don't
LA.
see Savannah wanting to move back to Cleveland for a third time. She moved from Cleveland, went back to go back again, and the his the like with life, with life, I don't think that makes sense. So, like they have their daughter is really the only school age child they have left. Their son's one plays in Los Angeles. I'm sure she likes seeing her son play in Los Angeles, and then the other
In
son is
Arizona.
in school on the West Coast. I don't see how that would make sense for their family, especially since they can pretty much decide where they're going. Most of the time, when people do things like go back to the home team for the last year, they didn't play for the home team, or they didn't win a chip with the home team, or they went somewhere else and it didn't work. Like it's been working in Los Angeles. I don't think that maybe he thinks he can get more power, but he's 40 years old. No one's going to listen to a 40-year-old athlete. Unfortunately, you just don't have enough time in the hourglass. There's not enough sand left for him to decide that. But I he can go really anywhere. He's still a
He
top 15
can,
player.
he can, but
It's
I
sad
think. Go
he
ahead.
didn't get a start. He didn't get to start the All Star game. I think that was a omission that they should do. Well, because your goat, they let him start even though he wasn't a starter in the All Star game. So why can't they do that for LeBron? I think that would just be nice. Um, they just let Michael Jordan play. They made Vince Carter give up one of his very coveted starting chances in the All Star game. But what am I to say?
Yeah, but I feel like this is different because
How's it different?
if this is different in that if this was LeBron's last season, I feel like they would have done the same thing that they did for
I think
Jordan.
so.
When
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about Jordan, they foresaw they knew that was going to be the last All Star game that he would be playing. So I feel like that's a little different versus
Yeah.
this year where I feel like across the board, many people believe that LeBron is at least going to play one more year. If this
Yeah,
was
he's gonna
his
play
last
one more.
year, they would have done the same thing. I feel.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, okay, I take it back. You're a fair arbiter. But how do you feel about Cooper Cup? I know you said that he beat a LeBron record,
Yeah,
one that
yeah, he did.
may
Um,
never be broken.
I'll second what you said in that when we're talking about Cooper Flag, he obviously has all the tools that are necessary for him to be successful, but I feel like he was far better than what was advertised. I thought that he was going to be a good basketball player, a good NBA player, not a great one. So like I foresaw him potentially being a starter on the team, but not being a franchise player on the team. And so he's
Hmm.
showing me something because I didn't expect him to be able to ball out in the way that he has. Mind you, there is a huge opportunity for him to do that, considering the circumstances with his team, but to be able to take advantage of that opportunity and far exceed the expectations where people perceived you to be, that it has been really impressive to see. And the crazy thing, like I said, only 19 years old.
Oh my,
uh, yeah, hasn't even broke 20 yet.
yeah.
So hopefully we're able to see more of what he's been capable of. Anything can happen over the course of a career. So you know hopefully he's can continue to able to play hard, to be able to remain healthy. I mean that's the biggest thing. But again, 19, he should be all right. So, but yeah, no, it's been impressive to see what he's been able to accomplish because, as I said, I knew that he would be able to make the leap into the league. I just didn't anticipate that the leap would be this smooth of a transition for him in
Yeah.
terms of what he's been able to do. So,
I second that. I saw when he was coming to Duke, they had a lot of interviews with Brian Scalabrine, who is he's a name that's known in the NBA, but mostly as like a human victory cigar type guy. But
yeah,
he was talking about how when Cooper Frag was 14 or 15, he was destroying the high school kids. And they brought him, he brought him to a camp to work with them, and he was talking about how good he was. And I was like, sure. But like we always say, he's playing in Maine. We don't know who plays up there. We don't know how good you could possibly be coming from the state of Maine.
right,
It's a great state. They got
right,
good lobster and blueberries.
right,
But the basketball is not very known up there. So for
right,
him to
right.
come and just be just wrecking shop, it's good to see. It's good to see that the league is in good hands. Obviously somebody like Victor Wembanyama a few years before him, we obviously knew he
Incredible.
was going to be the goods.
Yeah, yeah.
He just seemed like a different kind of animal and the same beast at the same time. But I'm really impressed with Cooper Flag. Just you can't say anything bad about his game. He scores on all levels. He plays good defense.
Yeah,
He rises on people. He put it on people's heads. So and he can shoot. So he can handle a rock. He's good with the
the
assists.
versatility. Yeah, the
He's so
versatility. It's
good
off the
that
charts.
Anthony Davis has gotten fat and no one really cares. No one really cares. They're like, sure, Anthony, eat your heart's content.
All right,
It's
sweatpants. All right,
over.
sweatpants. You got it,
It's over.
sweatpants. Oh
It's
no,
over.
not
Just
sweatpants. Street
street
clothes. Street
clothes. That's
clothes.
right. Street
Street
clothes. Yeah.
clothes. Street clothes. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. He
But
wasn't street clothes with us, but now he's street clothes again.
he
He
was
was
street
he won a
clothes a
chip.
couple of
He won a
times.
chip. He
He
won
did. He
one
did.
year.
But after that, he was street clothes.
He was okay.
I'll give him the chip. But after that, he was street clothes a lot of the time.
Yeah, well,
Which is why he had to be shipped out, and why he's about to be shipped out probably again,
we made
perhaps
two conference finals.
to,
I can't be
to the
mad at
Hawks.
Anthony Davis. Two conference finals. Most teams don't have any conference finals, so I can't complain
But
about
let
Anthony
me,
Davis.
speaking of Cooper Flag, another person really surprising me, Concanoople. Like shout out to him because I mean, like I said, I perceived him to be a solid player. I didn't anticipate him to be as good as he's been thus far as well. He's really shown me something also. So
Yeah.
but yeah, what are your thoughts for those of you out there watching with the sports stories that we were discussing, whether we're talking about Cooper Flag, whether we're talking about with his 49 points that was scored this week and setting that record, and as I said, unfortunately it came in a loss. I know he also scored 30 plus last night against the Rockets, and that also resulted in a loss, but it was a close game. I don't know if you were watching it, Spills, but also your thoughts on LeBron's chances of returning in LA. I don't foresee him returning to LA. I foresee him going to Cleveland, but maybe those of you out there may think otherwise. I may put up a poll, see what your thoughts are on that, those of you out there. But with that, we're going to move on out of our sports cooler talk and get into some streaming news with our stream and chill segment. So let me bring that up now for you. A lot that went down this past said week when it came to streaming news. We'll start first on Thursday as Amazon and Sony announced who would be playing the Norse God of Thunder in its upcoming series adaptation of the beloved PlayStation franchise God of War. It'd be none other than Severance Star, and I apologize if I'm butchering your name, Olafur Duri Olafsson. And to comment further on that, for those that may not be familiar with the game, Thor, who made his God of War debut as a last-minute tease in the 2018 installment before becoming a primary villain in 2022's God of War Ragnarok, towers over even Kratos being our protagonist, and is one of the most powerful beings the Ghosts of Sparta has fought yet. Amazon's official description for their version of the character that would make its way onto the series calls him a mountain of a man whose actions in a war fought long ago now haunts his waking hours. Elsewhere, that same day, HBO confirmed on their social media who would be checking in for season 4 of The White Lotus. An impressive cast that includes Helena Bonham Carter, Stephen Coogan, Caleb John T. Edwards, Marissa Long, Alexander Ludwig, Chris Messina, and AJ Machalka. So, Spillman, we have a series that has announced their casting of Thor, and on the other end, we have the fourth season of the iconic series White Lotus. What are your thoughts?
Um, I'm interested in the streaming in the Thor for Amazon. He looked like the Thor from that game. For the fans, he looks like Thor from Infinity War at the beginning when Thor was all sad and we was all sad for Thor. But he
That
looks
Thor,
like a
yeah,
classical Thor, like how we imagine Thor would look in the true Valhalla. He looks like he can have great battles with the guy who's going to play Kratos. So that'll be interesting.
and I was gonna say, fun trivia fact: if memory serves, a guy who's playing Kratos actually voiced Thor in the game, so you have this
Yeah,
weird synergy happening
yeah,
here of Kratos now fighting the very voice actor of the character that he played before. So
that's right. We're all Thor, ladies and gentlemen. All Thor all the time. Um, but yeah, I just think that that's a good casting, as you can see right here. Um, they look very similar. Um, Looks like they'll give him a beard treatment. They're not going to ask him to shave his hair, which I had questions about for the Kratos actor. But
yeah,
that's very interesting. Congratulations to him. I thought he was very interesting in Severance. Moving on to the cast of the White Lotus. I'm interested in this, but the White Lotus lost me when they got rid of my gal Jennifer Coolidge. I really, I'm a big fan of hers. I love everything she's in. American Pie, Pootie Tang, all kinds of movies that she's been in. I really love her. It's sad that she did not make it through the third season and now the fourth, but I'm interested in the concept of White Lotus because I like fancy hotels in in faraway locales. That's what I like
and
to
it's
do.
supposed
I
to be
like
in
to
France
go.
this go around, so it should be
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. C'est bon, c'est bon. So I'm interested in that. I imagine it's probably on the Riviera. It's probably on the French Riviera. I don't think that they would do it in Paris. That's a little bit stale. Like, sure, Paris is nice for rich people, but rich people don't go to Paris. They've been to Paris. That's where
I
you
don't
go.
know. I
They
don't
go to
know
Paris. I'm saying they go to Paris, but
that in Italy.
to relax, to relax, you can't really relax in Paris. It's like being in any other city. I think the Riviera.
What part of Paris were you
Um,
going to that you were?
you can't relax in Paris, man. I don't. I like. It's like, do you feel relaxed when you in New York City? That's how Paris feels. It's not relaxing. It's like it's hustle, it's bustle, it's people all over the place. That's not what the White Lotus is. The people on White Lotus are getting away from it all. They're going places with amazing views, and I think that the French Riviera is like
And
that.
France doesn't have amazing views. I
I
don't
didn't
know,
say
man.
that. I said
Okay,
Paris is not the
okay,
place where you go to unwind. You don't go to
okay.
Paris to unwind. You might go to be seen, but they're not going on those vacations on White Lotus to be seen. They going to like get away from it, have an argument with their wife on vacation. That's what they're doing on that show. So I think that France is a beautiful country. I will say that, but I think that it's probably not going to be set in Paris. I think it's going to be set in the Riviera, maybe Nice. You know, maybe that.
Okay.
Maybe they'll do it in the French Alps. They might do a ski chalet type thing. I will be interested in that. I hadn't taken too many cold weather vacations, but I think that that's when you get your real travel repertoire. It's like we don't just go to beaches. We
Okay.
get a nice little snowy, situation. The Saint Bernard saved me. Pour some cognac in my mouth, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm looking forward to in the next season of White Lotus. How about yourself?
Well, so I'll say this, and I'm going to say something that's not very popular when it comes to White Lotus, because you commented on Jennifer there, and Jennifer, that was her character was a very interesting character, and there were a lot of moments that character had that I enjoyed, but I felt like in minor instances she was a little aggravating, she was a little irritating, so I felt like the arc that they gave her in having it wrap up in season 2 was enough. I felt like it would have been overkill considering all the things that she got into. It would have been a stretch for me to see her be able to move on in season 3. All the situations and crazy hijinks that she got herself into, and a lot of them was self-inflicted. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were some instances that couldn't be helped, but there were some instances where I'm like, come on now, like, and
Hmm.
where it was like aggravating. I was like, see, you know what? That's exactly what you get because you're doing a lot right here. So I felt like that arc of her, I'll try to do this without spoiling things, but mind you, it's been 4 seasons, y'all. Y'all need to catch up. But with the 2 seasons that we had of that character, I felt like that was enough of that character. It was just enough for us to be able to, just as you're doing now, being able to appreciate that character and to be able to miss that character, but also enough there to be able to enjoy the character. And I felt like if it got moved into a season 3, it would have been too much. We would have been sick of that character. I felt like she was in another season because she's a lot. That character is a lot, and I feel like 2 seasons is enough. And
I don't care about these other people like I care about her, though. She pulled my eyes on the
we
screen,
had
ladies
some
and gentlemen.
legacy. We had some legacy, some carryover from that season, if memory
Those people
serves.
don't interest me as much as Jennifer Coolidge. Like even the characters that were legacy characters were from her storyline. So it's like, why we kill her if we're gonna be talking about this stuff that was important to her story? But I'm not a writer in Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen. I just comment on it.
And it gave in the true sense of White Lotus, it gave a nice WTF moment in terms of how she went out. So
Yeah,
like
that's for sure. Don't spoil us, though,
if,
ladies
if,
and
if
gentlemen.
anything, if anything, like we could at least appreciate that. At least it wasn't something where something happened off screen. It was
Hmm.
something that happened on the show, and it was a pivotal, major WTF moment that happened on the show. So, but I don't know how you guys out there feel. I am interested in the God of War series. Um, a lot of the video game adaptations that we've been receiving thus far have been doing have been pretty solid, minus maybe Halo, which is unfortunate because I love Halo, but at least the last couple of adaptations we've seen, we have The Last of Us and we have Fallout, which have both been solid adaptations. So considering that track record, that a lot that we've been seeing with video game adaptations as of late, especially as series, I have relatively uh um uh I guess solid expectations of what this series could be. So we'll see what happens. I know you were far heavier into God of War than I am because I know it is a PlayStation
That's
related
right, ladies and gentlemen.
franchise.
We got better games on this side of the street, ladies and gentlemen. They got Halo, and they ain't made a new Halo in 20 years, ladies and gentlemen. We got
But I
lots
will
of
say
new
this:
games.
one series that they do need to make a series out of, and I feel like it is ripe for being adapted. Is I don't know if you've ever played Mass Effect. Mass
Oh,
Effect is an
yeah.
Mass Effect is an incredible game. You have a lot of things going on with it in terms of science fiction. You have people that have abilities and powers, and you have different types of alien creatures, like you would have with like a Star Trek, or Star Wars. So I feel like that would be an awesome show to be able to adapt and to make into a series. So if anyone out there is listening, please make Mass Effect. We're looking to make a Mass Effect into a game, because, or not a game, but a series. I feel like there's a lot there to be able to mine from to make a great show. And I felt the same way about Halo. It just wasn't executed in the way that I felt it should have been. But be that as it may, let us know, down below, what are your thoughts on Thor being cast in the God of War sequel, or the God of War series, I should say, as well as the announcement of the cast for the upcoming fourth season of White Lotus. So with that, we're going to get into the main topic of today's show, and that deals with Farpoint Con. As I said, we have had a couple of shows prior with some of the guests that are on hand at the show, happening this weekend. It began on Friday and wrapped on Sunday. For those that are unfamiliar, Farpoint Con or Farpoint Convention is organized by Farpoint Foundation. It is an annual gathering for fans of all genres of imaginative fiction, whether it's science fiction, fantasy, horror, or superheroes, in all of the media formats in which they might appear, whether it's cinematic, film and television, podcast, web video, etc. It was established in 1993 by a committee led by Beverly Volker and Stephen Wilson, and it's has a focus on, as I just mentioned, on fandom and all those who comprise it, to encourage, educate, and our to enable fellow fans in their lives and pursuits. So when it comes to Farpoint Con, I've had an opportunity to go a couple of years back, because it was in Hunt Valley prior, but in that time it has since moved to Townsend. And in having the opportunity to go with its new venue, it was nice to be able to see all the things that are givens when it comes to a said show. But before I dive into the review, I realized, Spills, have you had an opportunity to go to Farpoint?
I have not had the opportunity to go to Far Point. I love Towson, Maryland. It's an interesting town. I'm sure not many people will say that they love Towson, Maryland, because it's like Baltimore's northern cousin. But I'm interested in the Farpoint Con. Imaginative fiction is a great medium. So I'm very interested to see what they some of the things they exhibit, and I'll check out some of the interviews that we have for everyone to check out. Um, yeah.
All right, cool. Well, yeah. So in diving into the show this past weekend, it was interesting to be able to go because, as I said, this is the first time. This is their second year in their Townsend, their new Townsend location, new Townsend venue, and it was an opportunity to look at it with a fresh set of paint, or new eyes, if you will, because before it had been in Hunt Valley in the venue there for quite some time, and then that was my perception, of that show. So all the givens that you have at a given con are there, whether you have your exhibitors, whether it's the panels that are on hand, or even the guests as well. I did like the setup of where they had the exhibitors. It was almost kind of like a marketplace type of setting that they had in one of the spaces that were there in the hotel that was utilized. And one thing that is a pet peeve of mine is just the idea of being able to have proper signage when you are being able to get from point A to point B. I didn't have a hard time of being able to, find where things are, which was nice. And I guess the other thing there is, a lot of times when we're talking about conventions, for those of you that are not aware, comes in all shapes and sizes. You have shows that are extremely big, and you have shows that are far more intimate and small. And there's an advantage and a disadvantage to both. When we're talking about a larger show, there are a lot of things to choose from, almost at a fault where sometimes it can be overwhelming on the amount of options and choices that you have to be able to enjoy the show. And then when we're talking about a smaller show, it may, feel like you've seen everything that you've had an opportunity to see. And when it comes to Farpoint Con, I feel like they do a decent job of being able to meld the advantages of both a larger show and a smaller show. When it comes to a smaller show, you're not going to deal with um, insane, obnoxious lines because it is a smaller show. Um, but in terms of the caliber of guests that they are able to get at their shows, they're able to get guests that are I feel are relevant and that fit well into the niche of their show. When it comes to the exhibitors that they have, they pick some unique and interesting exhibitors to come to their shows. So while at a bigger show there may be a huge variety of different potential exhibitors of the products and things that they are selling or showing. There is a lot of that available there at Farpoint Con. So it was great to be able to run into a lot of familiar faces, whether they had been, vendors or even, folks that are here in the DC metropolitan area that are part of, the community of folks that go to conventions. So shout out to, all the folks there that I did run into and see. And yeah, like it was the only thing which can't be helped is that it was freezing cold yesterday. And the one thing that also couldn't have been helped was the outside of the cold, the snow as well, being able to kind of navigate through the snow to be able to get to the show. But outside of that, it was a solid day of being able, as I said, to run into a lot of people and to be able to connect with not just the vendors there, but with some of the guests there as well. So looking forward to having an opportunity to go next year and looking forward to seeing, who they have in store next year as well. So Spills, any last thoughts? I feel like next year we need to get you out there, man.
I think that um, next year for sure, if we could plan it, I'll spend some time up there. I haven't had uh, much of a. You can't twist my arm to go to Baltimore these days, so I don't
That's fair.
mind going to the Charm City or to Towson, even though it's in the county. Some people feel a way about the county, but I don't feel that way because I'm not from there. It doesn't matter to me. So we can have fun up there. Um, for sure, we can uh, check out the con next year.
All right, cool. Well, with that, let us know in the comments how your far point is doing. If you guys are still there, I know that it's still going down today, and we'll be wrapping up in a couple of hours or so. But let us know how the show has been going for you. If there were some things that you felt could have been tweaked, or some things that you felt were done really well this year. Share it with us. Let us know in the comments. And with that, we're going to wrap up this edition of This Week in Pop Culture. Before, I give my spiel, I'm going to punt it over to Spillman. Spillman, can you tell folks where they can find you?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you can find me at Truly Spill on Instagram. I'm there. We can talk about lots of things like how LeBron is the GOAT. So check me out there.
And you can find me in talking about how LeBron is the number 2 all time player of all time. You can feel free to chat with me on that subject, among other subjects in pop culture. But again, Brandon Choi, co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find me at Brandon Choi ENT on X, and then Brandon Choi _ENT on Instagram. With that, thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and see y'all soon, y'all. Bye.